logo, light, mess. Great. This little laptop comes everywhere with me. In fact, I'd go as far to say it's the most important device I've got in this house. Here's why. Hello and welcome back to Mark Ellis Reviews, and thank you for subscribing if you have, and if you haven't subscribed, you know where that button is. So as I mentioned recently, I am a multiple Mac kind of guy. I've got 3 Macs in this room right now. Don't need 3 Macs, but I find a way to use them to run my business, run this channel, make money, be happy, and it's just a long list of excuses. But this is definitely my favourite Mac out of the 3. And if you hadn't guessed already, it is the M1 MacBook Air. I've talked quite a lot about this already, and I make no apologies for doing that. But today, I just thought I'd give you an insight into how it fits into my everyday life. Because if you're still thinking about buying one with all these rumours about new MacBooks coming out quite soon, you might be tempted to wait, and I don't think you should. Here's how the M1 MacBook Air fits into my life. When I first did the review of the M1 MacBook Air, I got told off for waving it around all the time in the video. I'm probably going to keep doing that in this one. I'm sorry, but I have to do that because I just have to hold it and talk about it. But ever since I got it back in November or December last year, I just fell in love with it. It was genuinely love at first sight. And that's not because it's new looking. You know, this is the same MacBook Air design we've had for many, many years. But it was just the fact that it combined the look, which is still, I think, modern and beautifully built, but it combined that with the M1 chip, which has just completely brought this laptop alive. But one of the main reasons this is I think the most important device in my house is because it's the first thing I pick up every morning. That's a bit of a lie, actually. I do pick up my phone first and doom scroll through Twitter while I'm trying to wake up. But forgetting that, when I actually get my day started and get to work, the MacBook Air is the first thing I use. Now, I'm a bit odd in that I start work at 6 a.m. every morning. I just find that during that period, I'm a terrible morning person actually, but I just find that I can be very creative between sort of 6 a.m. and 9 o'clock in the morning. And the key to that is having a device I can just pick up and use straight away. And the M1 MacBook Air is perfect for that. Now, before this, I was using the 12.9-inch iPad Pro with the Magic Keyboard. That was my kind of go-to first thing in the morning device. When I got this nearly 12 months ago, that kind of changed things completely. I think there's 2 reasons for that. One of them is the fact that this is just so speedy and quick. I'll come on to the performance in a moment. The other reason is that macOS, for me, just feels like a really comfortable pair of slippers that I do like to slip into first thing in the morning. I think going from iPadOS to this device running macOS for a morning routine laptop, you cannot beat this thing. Now, I recently did a review of the Microsoft Surface Laptop 4. I'll leave a link above. Spoiler, I really like it, but there's one big caveat with it. And the problem is not really down to the Surface laptop itself, it's more down to the Windows ecosystem. It's a bit of a specific issue, but it's one that is a bit of a deal breaker for me, and that is that I cannot find a decent writing app for Windows. I use Ulysses on the Mac, which is just amazing. It feels like it's been built for me. I've done a video about that recently, I'll put that in the description, but I cannot find anything that comes even remotely close to Ulysses on the Surface Laptop 4. So why am I mentioning this? Well, because I write a lot. I do a lot of writing. And I've got my own blog and I've got a presence on Medium as well, and I blog every day of the week. So I need a device that can just enable me to get words down very quickly. And there's a few reasons for this. It's not really the power of the M1 chip, because I'm not asking much of the M1 chip when I'm using Ulysses, I'm just typing away, writing blogs. But I do need the right screen size, and the 13-inch screen on these is just fantastic. The keyboard's got to be good, and the keyboard, finally, if you've been using the old butterfly keyboard that came with the MacBooks before this new generation, which was absolutely dreadful with no travel and just horrible, would always break, then you're in for a treat, because the keyboard on these, although it's not, don't tell anyone, but the Microsoft Surface 4 keyboard is the best laptop keyboard I've used, but we'll leave that out of this video. But the new keyboards on these MacBooks are fantastic. You'll enjoy using them. They sound nice. If I can just give you a little demo. Nice laptop sound. There's just enough travel now. It's not terribly short, and they don't seem to break very easily if you get crumbs and things on them. And just the ergonomics of this thing really as well. I think that's one of its kind of best features, is this kind of taper design. The fact it's so light. You can basically write anywhere. You can do it on your sofa, on the train, desk obviously. Anywhere I need to write, I can use this. It fits everywhere. Now, recently I have been testing the iPad Air 4 with the Magic Keyboard cover, just to get an idea if that is a nice little writing combo. But I completely admit I keep returning to the MacBook Air because it's the best writing device I've ever owned. Now, as you've probably noticed so far, I've not exactly been pushing this laptop in terms of the way that I use it. However, I am acutely aware that it's capable of doing a lot more than just writing and doing emails and doing Teams calls, etc. And that's why I have Final Cut Pro installed on here. Now, I don't use this for any form of video editing at all, really. All of that takes place on the M1 Mac Mini behind me, which is just superb. But I know that if I get stuck, if that breaks down, or if I'm out on the road, if I need to go out somewhere and I equally need to finish a video edit, I will quite happily use this. And that's particularly impressive when you bear in mind that this is the base spec M1 MacBook Air. So it's got 8GB of RAM and it's got that 7-core GPU. You add all that stuff together and you think, well, surely this is not capable of being a very good video editing machine, but it is. So it's just nice to know that I've got that power available if I need it. And the other reason it's quite handy is because I occasionally do my photo editing on here. My primary device these days for photo editing is actually the iPad Pro. But again, if that isn't around, or if this is just immediately to hand, I'll fire up Lightroom, get cracking. And honestly, the way this deals with photo edits from big raw files, it's breathtaking when you bear in mind that it's just got the 8GB of RAM and that 7-core GPU. Yeah, if you're going to be using it for general tasks, but you occasionally dabble in perhaps, I don't know, music production or video editing or photo editing or a little bit of software dev and that sort of stuff, it will do you fine. Even the base level spec, you don't have to spend and get the 16GB if you don't want to. Just get the base level spec, it will do you very proud. Now, another way this really fits brilliantly into my life is to do with this channel. If you run a YouTube channel, you'll know that you spend quite a bit of time in YouTube Studio, and that is either for obviously uploading videos, but also looking at your analytics, dealing with comments, and doing all the kind of back-end slightly boring stuff. The comments aren't boring, but all the other kind of boring stuff that goes with running a channel. For that, you do need a device that you can kind of pick up and use whenever you need to, because quite often inspiration strikes where you suddenly think, oh, I need to check the the analytics of that video, or I need to start replying to the comments on that video. Then having something again that you can just pick up and start using straight away is very useful. And I do find that I do pretty much all of my YouTube admin on this laptop. A lot of reviewers have described the M1 as being very snappy, and that's probably the best way of describing it. And that kind of reveals itself most comprehensively on the laptop line. So the M1 MacBook Pro and this, the M1 MacBook Air. And the reason I say that is because as soon as you open the lid, bang, you're there. There's no waiting around, you're immediately logged into macOS. Even apps that aren't optimized for the M1, they're becoming fewer and far between now, which is quite nice. But even those that aren't optimized for it will just open straight away. And the most impressive thing, even with 8GB of RAM, you can leave loads of apps open. These are the first computers I've had, I think, where I do not think for a minute about how many things I'm leaving open. I regularly come back to this and I've got Lightroom, Safari, Spark, Discord, Teams, Word, Excel, Fantastic Alan, God knows what else open. It's just unbelievable. You don't know, it just all works fine. So whatever they're doing with memory management and stuff is very, very smart. But going back to the YouTube side of things, it just means I can always pick this up, fire up Safari and get cracking without waiting for anything. And I find myself doing that constantly throughout the day. There's all these little tasks that I do for this channel and just for other work that I do where I need a device that is very, very accessible and very, very quick. And there's nothing else in this house really that does it as well as the M1 MacBook Air. Anyone who knows me knows I spend a stupid amount of time in coffee shops, and that means I need a device that I can really rely on when it comes to the battery life. Now, when I first got the M1 MacBook Air, I was a little bit worried about the battery life because although it was very good, it didn't seem to be quite as amazing as all the initial reviews were making out. But it's not actually the battery life in use that is the star of the show with this. It's actually the standby time, which is just amazing. I feel like I hardly ever have to charge this. And it's a laptop where the longer you've owned it, the more confident you get about that standby time. So for example, these days, if I finish work on this and it's got, let's say, 40% battery remaining, I probably won't plug it in. I'll shut down the lid, leave it somewhere on the desk or on the table downstairs, and next day, I'll pick it up, put it in my bag, cycle to a coffee shop and start using it. Because it will still have probably 40% of battery remaining, and I know that 40% will last quite a long time. I've never owned a laptop like that, where you barely think about the battery. Now, I know I have to charge this, it's not a magic battery, it does run out eventually, but the gaps in between charging are so long that it's just such a convenient device to live with. So the M1 MacBook Air is easily the best laptop I've ever owned, and today I've given you a bit of an insight into how it fits into my life. But I'm curious, have you got one? And if so, how does it fit into your life? What are the main things about this laptop that make it wonderful for you? Get involved in the comments. At the time of publishing this video, it's nearly iPhone 13 launch time. And if you want to find out why I'm not that excited about it and why I won't be buying the iPhone 13 Pro, if that's what it's called, keep watching for a link to that video. But until next time, thank you for watching as always, and I'll see you in the next video.